All right.
Episode 85 of the Cine. We are back. We are back with the 85th iteration of this here business that we call Cinnamon. It's me, your boy C, one half of the Cinnamon, and I'm joined, as always, by the wonderful Douglas Davidson. How are you doing today, sir?
Trying to remember if there's a Beatles joke we could have made, but I don't remember the Beatles. Isn't that a song? When I'm 85?
You're asking the black guy about the Beatles?
Well, I wasn't trying to
No,
make it a racial
no,
thing, but sure.
no.
Let's
We got
ask the
nothing for you.
black guy
We
about the Beatles.
we got nothing for you. Community doesn't have much for you on that one, buddy. You're on your own. Lonely Island there. Ask us about the Beatles of hip hop, aka the Wu-Tang Clan. And then I'll have something for you.
That's fair.
Yes, this is episode 85, man. We're back after our usual two
Yep.
week run right here on the show, man. Just keeping this train right on a rolling, man. It's been, I just mentioned, 2 weeks, sir. What has graced your eyeballs that you deign to talk about on this here program?
Before we get into the shared discussion that we have for an upcoming release that loads of folks are super excited for, I am going to provide three recommendations. The first one comes from 88 Films. They have released for the first time in North America Police Story 3 Super Cop, directed by Stanley Tong, starring Jackie Chan, Michelle Yeoh, Maggie Cheung, Kenneth Seung, Yuen Hua. Like, basically, if you've watched Hong Kong cinema, they're probably in this movie. If they've ever worked with Jackie
Yes.
Chan, they're probably in this movie. This was a first time watch for me, Super Cop, or as we all
Mm-hmm.
say from Hot Fuzz, for the greater good. No, the cop who
Greater
can't be
good.
stopped. That is all I ever knew
Yep.
about Super Cop. I didn't actually realize it was the third in the Police Story series, if you will. Um, until I found out about this 4K restoration being released. It's fantastic. It's probably my favorite now of the
Mm-hmm.
three films. I like the first one is fantastic, and that opening sequence when they destroy the lean-to area is bonkers. And of course, now you can understand the reference that's done in Bad Boys 2. And
Yep.
that final fight in the mall is fantastic. But there got to a certain point with Hong Kong cinema where just about every fight was either happening in a closed space, whether it be a mall, a warehouse, something else. Both of which Police Story 1 and 2 had done.
Police
But
Story.
Super Cop in the third of the series not only shifts locations, but shifts the stunts. Michelle Yeoh died almost twice. Jackie Chan almost died at least once. He's apparently terrified of heights, and he gets strung right up to hang onto a rope that is attached to a helicopter that then lands on a moving train. That then Michelle Yeoh then rides her motorcycle onto that moving train. Practical effects are freaking amazing. Practical stunts are incredible. Please, please don't die just to get it on camera. But the restoration for folks that are fans of this, it looks phenomenal. The color balance is great. The sound is fantastic. Bonus features are a lot of archive material, not a whole lot of new stuff. But if you get the 88 Films edition and you're a big fan of this series, Jackie Chan or Michelle Yeoh, you also get a really great essay book. You get a fold out poster. You get a whole bunch of stuff, and it's all quality. I've reviewed a couple of 88 Films releases now, and they're super fantastic. And by the way, if you like movies like Rumble in the Bronx that Jackie's done, this is the same director. So I would highly recommend this if you want to check that out. Now, if you are looking for something a little bit more recent, you're looking for something that's got that great action, some comedic moments, but you're looking for a little bit more depth and well, frankly, gore. You want to look for Sisu. It is in theaters now. Why are you shaking your head at me?
They're like, yeah, we'll give you the link when it gets close to release, and then I never got anything.
No.
And I was like, I'm gonna send Sisu after y'all. So I still haven't seen it.
Not his name.
I would know that if they'd sent me a link.
Also true. I have not seen any other movies by this director. This is Jalmari Helander. Don't know why I started through that. Finnish director. He wrote and directed this film. Sisu is apparently a word that lacks a easy to translate definition, but it roughly comes out to possessing such a strong will as to defy death. And the film takes place towards the end of World War II. It's in Finland. The Nazis are retreating back to Germany, but as they do it, they're destroying everything that they come across. And they just so happen to come across a guy who, former Finnish soldier, has more or less retired. He's just panning for gold. He finds some, and on his way somewhere with the gold, he comes across Nazis. And because Nazis are bastards, they decide to poke him, and he fucks them up.
I love
But not only
it.
does he fuck them up, but imagine a John Wick movie, except instead of John Wick, being able to hold open his jacket and block 50 million bullets, you don't have any of
Mm-hmm.
that. And instead, you use your own wounds to keep to put rebar in to hold yourself up so you don't get strangled on a noose. Like that's the kind of
Have
fucking badassery we're dealing with.
average 21 Tuesdays.
An average Tuesday for you.
It's
If it is not
average
an
Tuesday.
average Tuesday for you, it'll be a little rough. I was peeking through my fingers a time or two watching this. It is fan fucking tastic. Can't recommend it enough. It is from the studio. It is from Lionsgate. It's from the studio that brought you John Wick, but it is not John Wick related.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely do recommend that. The third film I'm going to recommend, and my last one before Daryl and I have our convo, is my first 5-star review of 2023. Last year, 2022,
Ooh.
I only had one 5-star, and that was RRR. So I'm very curious if this is the only one that happens or not. But it's a film called Accused, directed by Philip Barantini. He's the director of Boiling Point, which, if you haven't seen that, is a one-track drama, which is fan fucking tastic. I believe that came out last year.
Mm-hmm.
But Accused had its world premiere at the Overlook Film Festival. The reps were kind enough to send me a link and were totally fine with me checking it out later. And I'm so glad I did. The basic premise is that there is a young man who lives in London. He gets on the train to go out of town to his parents' place so that he can watch their house while they go on vacation. On his way there, or on his way to his parents' place, he's on the train, a bombing occurs.
Oh boy.
And with the color hat and his hoodie and his beard, he matches the description of the person who is suspected to have bombed it. And he sits and
Hate him.
watches as all of social media starts gunning for him. And it goes
Mm.
from that into an actual home invasion. It is absolutely incredible. On the edge of your seat, you are just fucking devastated for him. But it's not just that, it's the fact that Philip found a way as the director to make the act of social media scrolling to make it actually feel like life or death. Where you're sitting there watching the actor, and I hope I pronounced this right, Chanel Kular. He's done some work in sex education, the Netflix show, and some
Mm-hmm.
other things. He's phenomenal in this, but he's sitting on his couch watching television, and he's got social media up to keep track of the conversation happening about the bombing. We see that his name is popping up. He doesn't see it yet, and the camera keeps switching
Yeah.
from the laptop in front of him to facing him and watching his face with just the laptop right underneath his eyes. And you're sitting there going, fucking look down, like a slasher is coming for him. And the way that they use that positioning, the way that they use the score, subtle movements of the camera, blocking, everything plays to just ratchet the tension from the moment of his realization to his isolation to his increasing stress to the actual home invasion. It is incredible, top to bottom. So highly recommended if you get the opportunity to check that out. absolutely do.
Boom.
So yeah.
And the fourth movie that you saw, sir?
I was lucky enough to be able to go see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 ahead of time. Directed and written by James Gunn. I believe he's the sole writer on this one, if I remember correctly. This is the third volume of the trilogy. It is the one, two, three, four, five, fifth movie appearance. And then, of course, there's the holiday special, which, while technically a short film, is also sort of technically a TV movie. So, hmm?
Yeah.
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 Because it's a television episode as a holiday special, but it is a short film length. So anyway, I dug this. It is not my. I still prefer two. I still absolutely prefer two. Two is my favorite out of the three, and I know that I'm weird about that compared to other folks. Yeah.
Yes.
And I rewatched one, two, and the holiday special ahead of watching three, and it still solidified it for me. For two, it's the fact that they've sort of found their groove, and the way that the story goes really wonderfully opens up some of those grooves, some of those things that we thought we knew. And with three, what I love about this though is that from the opening moment of the movie, we get this really lovely introduction to what the story's going to be about, and once all of that is settled in, the action starts and doesn't stop until the end of the movie. Like there's a clock on this that I think they handle for the most part really, really well.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I think two is at the bottom of the list for me. I think it's going to end up being one, then three, then two.
Out
But
of
I
those three,
really
that
enjoy this.
that would be, I imagine, how you would do that, with two on the bottom and one being your favorite. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's how ranking and sorting goes. Um, I like the ticking clock element that we have in this. Uh, it it humanizes some characters that only been hinted at. It kind of gives more depth and backstory to certain
Mm-hmm.
characters. It's just freaking fun, man. It's I said it to some people as we were walking out, man. We needed this kind of villain back in the MCU. We were getting a little too comfortable with these, oh, this guy might have a fucking good point type of villain. We just needed unhinged and insane and batshit crazy. And goddamn, does he bring unhinged and batshit crazy to this? I love a delightful scene chewing villain. It's just wonderful, man. Things don't end how I don't want to say normal Hollywood stories end, but things that you are hoping happen do not happen, and I like that about the story. Um, it's a very real ending, not a Hollywood ending for the most part. Where they all end up at the end, I think, is very satisfying conclusion for pretty much everybody in this movie, and then throughout all of that, it's just fun, delightful, still funny, and you get that good old fashioned f bomb in there. Not where I would have placed it in the movie, but I still
And they
respect it.
ruined it. It's in a clip that they've released online.
I saw the TV spot at work today, and I was like, "Man, what
I
are y'all doing?
They've
What are you
released so many
doing?"
TV spots for this. I would open up YouTube to either go find a trailer for a review I was writing or to schedule it for EOM Facebook, and there'd be a new clip, and I'd be like, "Fuck, I don't want to know." I watched I watched one, like one of the first ones that they dropped, and I was like, "Okay, cool. I can dig this." And then I went, "I don't want to see anymore in case there's a screening." And then they kept dropping, kept dropping. No, I mean, obviously I would have to take the action to click on it. So it's not like I was diving on a hand grenade. Stop! But it's still just the fact that there's context or imagery or something else. And for a film like this, where it is the third in a series, for me anyway, I don't want any surprises. I didn't want anything ruined for me. The one thing that I did love about this, and we'd heard Gunn talk about it before, that he always had in mind this story he wanted to tell. What I really think that he does achieve here is that not only is volume three, it's a solid story on its own, but how I would actually describe it is volume three is the third act of a larger story that he's told, where the first film is not just the first film, but it's the first act of getting these characters together. The second film is that second part. It is your sort of empire type ending, though much the band is still together. It's just Yondu we lost.
It's the breaking of the characters because they spent half the second one arguing and bickering and physically split up, and then three is the coming back together of the
True.
characters.
Uh, well reasoned. Although in rewatching the second one, I love how they break them up. I love how they tell that story. And post release, if we want to come back and talk about this, I've got some big stuff about this movie that I don't feel comfortable talking about yet, but I think would be, in looking at all
I
of
mean,
them as a
but
whole,
okay.
would be an interesting discussion.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to make for one of. I mean, you only have what, four MCU trilogies, so it's kind of hard to be like this is the best when you only have what, four.
My
But
favorite's still Captain
yeah,
America, but this
it's
one's really good.
yeah, I'm debating on whether or not this is my number one or my number two, just because of Winter Soldier and Civil War so damn strong.
Which one's your
But it's just gonna
which one would
be
be your number one if this were your number two?
it's either
Oh,
Guardians or
okay.
Cap. It's either that's
Gotcha.
one or two, and then Ant-Man, Thor. Oh, Iron Man's in there too. So you got a couple down there sandwiched.
There are a couple
Uh,
of trilogies, and ranking them could go any way where one would be one. Anyway,
yeah, that's how ranking and sorting works.
yeah.
Yes.
Today's podcast
This is what I'm
explaining how
gonna
ranking works.
explaining bubble sorting. This is what I'm as soon as I got done with the movie, my first thought was I can't wait A to watch it again, and B, I can't wait to do a Guardians trilogy binge watch to see how the tone and flavor shifts and complements itself throughout. Just man, it's for everyone who might be, thinking that MCU's lost their touch or this, that, and the third. I mean, they let Gunn do his thing, and damn it, he delivered in every
And
possible way. If there's any complaints about wonky visual effects, that's not a deal. I don't think. I think everything looks sharp and crisp for the most part.
there
Just
was one
wonderful.
thing I
Just
thought about
wonderful.
you while watching regarding some special effects, but because I don't want to ruin it for anybody, I will just say that when we're done recording, I want to talk to you about it just briefly because I thought about you. And anyway, but nothing bad. It was just
Interesting.
talking about the makeup, and we've had other conversations where you're like, "Oh, I noticed this, and it was janky and
Mm-hmm.
underdeveloped, or wasn't properly blended." And I was sitting there watching the movie, and I was like, "Huh." And then I kept watching the movie, so I want to talk to you about it. But uh,
All
I
right.
I would
All right.
say though that one of the best things about this film that speaks to some of the strengths of stuff like Ragnarok. A lot of people didn't enjoy Love and Thunder. I enjoy Love and Thunder. But when you get a director that has a vision and they are allowed to tell their story, we really get strong stories like that. I like Eternals. It's not a film that I'm just going to throw on and relax like I might Guardians 1 or Guardians 2. Winter Soldier, I feel like I need to lean in to watch it. There's a lot of moments where my day just stops if I put that on. I'm just that's what I'm doing. But
Damn straight.
you get some of these movies where when the director is allowed to do their job to make the movie they want to make, the MCU gets some great stuff. And you've got a director here who understands the characters. So let them do their thing. And it's great.
Yeah, yeah. He like you said, he understands the characters, and I even saw an article today like Feige had no input into the fates of anyone. This seemed like a really hands off, let gun do gun. And when he's left to his devices, man, he knocked it out of the
I
park
wonder
for me.
if there was any sort of okay, you fucked with my characters for Infinity War and Endgame. No touchy.
Yeah. No touchy, no touchy. See, you trust me? Let me do me, and I'll give you a good movie, and such as he did, man. Hopefully, y'all go and see this, and some of y'all might have seen this by the time this goes up, because this is going up the day the movie comes out. Happy Star Wars
May
Day!
the fourth be with you.
Actually, no, that's the 4th. So the day afterwards, it's going up on the Friday. So if you're experiencing a Star Wars hangover, good for you. Go out and see Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a great cue.
Actually, you know what? That would blend quite nicely. Just in terms of your space odyssey. Deal with deal with space pirates and wizards, and laser
I
swords.
said it before. If Disney had not revamped Star Wars, Guardians of the Galaxy would have been this generation's Star Wars.
See that? See that?
Yeah.
F bombs and all.
You know what? Yeah, F bombs and all. One thing that the Guardians do, they got to do a lot of traveling to get from place to place in order to get Rocket. In order to get certain things for certain people, man. A lot a lot of traveling together, one might say, almost as if this movie were a road trip of sorts. And boy, I tell you, that's a great thing to talk about today. Road trip movies. Wow.
That's true. That's true. That's true. That is today's subject. Inspired by our dear paprika leader and his lovely wife going on their honeymoon. So
Yeah, man, we tripped it right the hell on out, man.
so I thought it would be fun
We
to
got a
talk about
trip
road
on.
trip movies.
That's a trip that I am not long to do again because this body is old and can't travel like it used to. I'm not in my 20s anymore. I was ready for bed as soon as I got home. Yeah. Do you have, so we're talking about road trip movies, man. Do you have the classic Douglas
I
Davidson
do.
list of road trip
I
movies
do.
for the
So we've
peoples?
got some of the obvious ones, your Easy Rider, your Midnight Run. You've got It Happened One Night. You got one of my favorite Netflix movies, Kodachrome. You've got one of my favorite releases from last year, Next Exit. It's Zombieland, Bones and All, Sideways, Paul, The Blues Brothers. Uh Crystal throughout Twister, but I don't know if that one entirely counts, but I wanted to name it anyway because it's fun.
They go from point A to
They
point B, I
they
guess.
kind of
So.
do. Sometimes there's a cow, sometimes there's another cow, sometimes it's the same cow. Uh, there's Plan B and Unpregnant, and then of course you can't talk about a road trip topic without naming Road Trip or Euro Trip.
Yes. Or Euro trip. Would you consider Wizard of Oz a road trip? Like they are literally walking down a road for a good
I,
bit of the
I
movie.
I actually would, because a road trip film is one in which literally characters are traveling for a specific purpose. It's not just, I mean, yeah, it is point A to point B, but they have a reason for doing it, for going on that journey. Suzumi is a surprising this year's release. Excuse me, is a surprising road trip movie. Sort of comes out of nowhere and it's freaking great. So but yeah, I would absolutely consider The Wizard of Oz a road trip movie, not just because she gets transported to Oz, but because she has to go, she's walking along the road, she's going on many adventures along the way, and then oops, I gotta go murder somebody. I've already murdered one
Yeah.
person when I showed up, gotta murder again, gotta get that bloodlust.
Not even as someone else, man, a family member.
Excuse me one second. You need to turn up the volume on that, my love. No, you'll need to. Don't cheat. Crystal just tried to sneak in here and she was like, Shh, you're recording. It's like, I know, but you need to anyway. She's delightful.
She's delightful in every possible way.
She is.
Shout out to
She
Crystal
is.
Davis.
I like being married to Crystal. That there's a long-standing joke about that. Whenever I use it with other people, they're like, no shit, I hope you love your wife. No, but it's actually a
Yeah.
little joke. Just it's hard to explain at this point. It's a long-standing running joke that I'm gonna stop dealing with now. So, what's your first movie? Take us on a journey, Daryl. Where are we going?
Since you mentioned it in your list there, I'll go ahead and kick off my first movie with what I consider wanted to be the not ultimate. That's a bit hyperbole. It's one of my favorite road trip movies. Blues Brothers, man. It is of all the SNL comedies, possibly my favorite of that classic '80s run of SNL comedies. I love every bit about this. Every band member gets at least one good time to shine, one good line. It's the story of two brothers, two criminals who are trying to do a little bit of good and put some good out there in the world to save the orphanage that raised them before they became said criminals. It's just a great funny movie with Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, And there's a cornucopia, a veritable feast of musical talent all throughout there. The Franklin, John Lee Hooker, Ray Charles, of course, um, and people whose names I can't think of now.
Cal Calloway,
Featuring the Cab,
Cab
that's the one I
Calloway.
could not think of. Thank you, Cab Calloway from Minnie the Moocher. Uh, uh,
Doo-doo.
and the Saturday Night Live Band playing the rest of the Blues Brothers. It is just crazy to how they took what was a skit and then turned into mini performances between skits and then turned it into a whole ass movie. And it's just fun and funny in every possible way. The script was originally the size of a phone book that Dan Aykroyd wrote.
That doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Having watched the documentary on Belushi, and if you are a fan of the Blues Brothers and you go check out that documentary, I want to say it was on Showtime. So chances are, if you've got it Showtime streaming, it's likely still available there. They talk about the Blues Brothers. I always thought it was born out of a skit. It was born out of the fact that he loved the blues. Belushi loved the blues.
Aykroyd or Belushi
Yeah,
loved the blues.
and
Yeah,
so it was more he wanted to be taken seriously as a performer. Now, of course, because of his ties with SNL and everybody knew him as a comedian, they all thought it was a bit. It was a bit in the sense that they put on these personas of the Blues Brothers, but it wasn't a bit in terms of his sincerity to be a musician and to share the love of the blues. So that part was absolutely fascinating to learn about and to hear it from his wife and Aykroyd and other people that were interviewed. So if you are a Blues Brothers fan, I do recommend checking that out.
yeah. You talk about Guardians and all the needle drops that they've had.
A few
Um,
too many. A few too many in my
Blues
case.
Brothers Blues Brothers is just chock full of some of the best. It's one of the best
Oh yeah.
soundtracks that I can think of. Like it's just a bopper from beginning to end. And of course, Blues Brothers also recorded their own music as well that you can, or covers of other blues songs that you can check out. But man, if you don't have time to watch a movie, you can at least listen to the soundtrack and still have uh, a good percentage of enjoyment that you would get from the movie. You'll also get
I
from the
don't have the
soundtrack.
soundtrack, but I have their performance CD. And my kids know
Yeah.
Rubber Biscuit. A bow bow
Okay.
bow.
Right on, right on. I haven't listened to mine in a while. I haven't listened to the soundtrack either in a while. I got to dust this
Oh,
bad
so
boy
good.
off, man.
So good.
So
I
good.
used to play Minnie the Moocher for my students, just because when I was teaching, I would just have several gigs worth of different genres, so that depending on my mood or as I got to know my students before class would start, I'd play music in the classroom. And so for me, every now and then I play stuff like Minnie the Moocher and just see, because these were babies, these were high schoolers and college kids,
Yeah.
compared to me, were babies. So it's like, whose parents have introduced you to this?
Who recognizes? I see a glimmer of recognition in the back. Right on. What's your first movie,
My
sir?
first movie, and sort of like I've done with the past few, rather than having like here's a favorite or building up to, I'm going to go in reverse chronological order. This one, when I was going through my lists trying to find various road trip films, this is one that I honestly hadn't even considered. A neo western, sure. A comic book movie, absolutely. One of the best action dramas of 2017, hands down. Yes, if not one of my favorite films from 2017. It's James Mangold's Logan.
My number two.
Man, we are in sync today.
We're in sync today.
But this film, and I'm actually not even remotely worried about Deadpool impacting this movie. For one, it's fucking Deadpool. Once they gave him a time device, the rules are fucking gone. Plus, it's
Out the
Deadpool.
window. Out the window.
Yeah,
Who cares? It's not like the X-Men cared about any continuity at all
they
anyway. So
tried, and there's a little bit, but particularly once they did Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, they just split right the fuck off that continuity, which makes sense because Days of Future Past indicates they would have gone this way versus, okay,
mhm.
we've corrected that, so now we go this way. So I have no issue there. But Logan is one of those films that particularly if you have been on this ride with Jackman. It is the perfect capper for this character. Um, it Origins, I haven't rewatched in ages. Same thing with the Wolverine, but I remember
Mm,
liking the Wolverine more than Origins.
yes, yes,
But
yes.
Logan is a film that I'm trying to figure out how to articulate this. To call something elevated implies that the other films are garbage or something else. But when most people think about,
In this case with the Wolverine, it's true.
at least Origins, but
Yeah.
when you think about a comic book movie, you don't think necessarily about art, and I think there's a problem with that because they're all art, good, bad, or indifferent. But with Logan,
Mhm.
it's like capital A art. This is telling a deep and profound story that works on a multitude of levels and just so happens to be based in a science fiction comic book world. And
Yeah.
honestly, if not for the reference they decided to make to the very first movie, it would be a 5-star film for me. If not for that fucking adamantium bullet. I hate that. I will
Do
never
you,
be
what
salt. I will never not be salty about that.
how do you feel about him bringing X-Men comics into the movie?
I didn't have a problem with that because at this point you've had X-Men being out and like in the public. And
Mm-hmm.
just like there were dime store comic books about Jesse James and other public figures, I could see comic
Yeah.
books being made of these, even if they were just, they may not be the actual stories. They might just be, here's what we envision their adventures to be. I mean, shit. Just within the last couple of years, how many Ip Man movies have we had? Ip Man is a real
Too many.
person who has been fighting all sorts of people. I'll give you guys a big heads up. There's an Ip Man, excuse me, young Ip Man giveaway coming to Elements of Madness soon. It's basically Die Hard with Ip Man. He goes someplace and his school gets attacked and he has to fight off the attackers. The trailer looks great, but did Ip Man really do all that? I don't know.
Maybe he was just the world's most tired man.
Seriously, he's been awakened last year. This year he's young. A couple years before that, like we've got these figures that we turn into myth. We turn them into myth,
Hmm.
and we create these new
Hmm.
stories around them. It's one of the things that I loved about, I forget the name of the movie that hit Netflix, but the one that imagined like George Washington and Abraham Lincoln being best friends, and and that whole cartoon was just so entirely fucked up. And it was so much fun, particularly if you know the history of some of these characters, like the actual people that were being used and
Hmm.
made fun of. And then of course Britain ends up being like aliens or some shit. But
Yeah,
but you've
yeah.
got these characters that we create this mythology for. Why not do that for the X-Men? Why not do that for these heroes? By this point in
Hmm.
Logan's life, he remains one of few. So I had no
All
problem.
right.
That's the long answer for your question.
Yeah, I dig this movie. I watched it at the hotel over the weekend. It happened to be on. It's just it's we finally get that Berserker Rage rated R Wolverine, but Mangold doesn't just blatantly go over the top with it. You get that very first scene where he really goes in. And it's like, okay, now your want is sated. You got the one scene. Now let me tell my story. This is the story of a broken old man trying to find peace towards the end of his life. Um, and it is a beautifully told story. To write it because it's a comic book story, unfortunately. Still, no less a
Yep,
dope flick.
I agree completely with some incredible performances from the cast all around. Daphne Keene in particular, uh, just just fucking heartbreaking.
Yes, yes,
You're,
indeed,
you're
all of
going
them.
to die with your
It's
heart in your hand.
yeah, yeah. All right, yeah. So that was my second joint. So I guess we might as well just keep this bad boy on rolling. My third and final joint, man. Uh, a hell of a road trip considering they end up exactly where they started at in the movie. Mad Max Fury Road, the most A to B to A movie there is, and I love every bit of it. When you come out of there, you're just like, oh my God, that was amazing. You stop thinking about it. You're like, man, they just ended up where they started. I'd love it every bit of this movie, man. It gave us another much needed badass female action jump in Charlize Theron as Imperator Furiosa, which will get some Anya Taylor Joy
Mhm.
action next year, I do believe, is when
I
that's
think
supposed to
so.
come out. Something like that. Tom Hardy taking up the role from Mel Gibson. Thank goodness. His grunting and just overall ornery disposition. I loved it. It was the first time I really started paying attention to Nicholas Hoult. Um, it's just this old man making a dope flick using a lot of
Mhm.
practical effects. It's colorful, it's vibrant, it's what an action movie should be. It's pulse pounding, it's adrenaline pumping. But the quiet parts, the emotional parts
Oh yeah,
also hit just as hard as the action does. And it's a great blend of the two. It overstimulates the senses, but not overstimulates to the point of standoffishness. You know, this is almost too much, but it's just that perfect degree of almost too much. And that's why I like
I
that
agree.
movie.
I agree that we've talked about Mad Max Fury Road before. I left the theater being like, I don't know if I liked this. I don't know if I really liked this. And then I kept thinking about it. And then I wanted to go back to the theater. I was like, why do I want to see this again? Why do I want to see this again? And then I saw it again. I was like, why do I want to live in this movie? That would be fucked up. But that movie is incredible, and it's a fantastic demo disc for any sort of new home theater system. You pop that sucker in, it's got everything you need. Everything you need. God.
uh, yeah, for me, for the longest, it was episode three that did that for me. But now Fury Road has replaced it.
Which part of episode 3?
Just the
Oh,
fight
okay.
scene at the end, or you can the action at the beginning, which is when the movie's still good, or you know the action at the end. Either one of them will get you that good that you're looking for out of your new home theater or sound bar or whatever it is
Right
you
on.
might have.
Right on. Well, technically, I still have 2 more movies of my own to get through
Get through
because
them.
you did your one, and then I did one, and we shared one. So, my
Mm-hmm.
2 movies. My next one is from 2012. I don't know how many folks have seen this within Paprika. It doesn't get talked about very much. It is a sad film with a lot of really great comedic beats. And I've watched it once and I have wanted to revisit it for so long, but I want to show it to Crystal, and therefore I have not done so. Steve Carell, Keira Knightley, Connie Britton, Rob Corddry, Adam Brody, Martin Sheen, Melanie Lewinsky, William Peterson, Gillian Jacobs, Patton Oswald. The list goes on. Rob Hubel. The list goes on in who is in this movie, seeking a friend for the end of the world.
Yeah, I've heard of this movie. I heard it was
It
okay.
is. I certainly feel like mileage varies. There's a certain comedic sensibility with many of the people I just mentioned. That either
Okay.
you line up with their humor, or you don't. And for most of them, it's hit and miss for me. Like Amy Schumer's in this, and she's hit and miss for me. Um, but for those of you that aren't familiar, it's the end of the world. An world life-ending object asteroid is about to slam into the earth. Everything's going to die, and the movie begins with Carell and his wife in a car. And when I say his wife, it's actually his wife who is in the car with him.
Yeah.
And her response to hearing the news on the radio is to literally jump out of the car and roll away.
Gotta
But that
go.
is literally how the movie starts. And I just love the fact that it is, in fact, actually his wife who is playing opposite him in that scene. but he just tries to go about living his life. Meanwhile, everyone around him is like, we fucked off work, or we're wearing all of our nice stuff, or we're doing all the drugs that we said that we would never do, or hey, thanks for coming
Yeah.
over for dinner. It's a key party. But pick whichever person you want to be with, forget the keys, just go off into a corner. And he ends up meeting someone who wants to go home. It's Keira Knightley. And he's like, I can help you get there. And it's so the journey is getting her to this place where there could be a plane waiting to try and fly her home before the asteroid hits. When
Okay.
you consider that she then, much later, about a decade later, Keira Knightley did Silent Night, which deals with another life-ending pathogen, and The Last Night on Earth. Yeah, one starts to
Stay away from
there's
Keira
something.
Knightley is what
There's
I've
something. Although
like, or Orlando Bloom gets his heart cut out of his chest.
just a rough time being with Kira. Uh,
Rough
but I would
time, man.
recommend Silent Night, just not for nothing. I would recommend that movie as well. But Seeking a Friend for the End of the World, I just remember being quite moved by it. And so when I think of road trip movies, that's sort of the odd one that I always want to bring up in case people haven't seen it. And in case you've seen The Meddler, which was Rose Byrne and Susan Sarandon, and if you've seen Hustlers, this is the same director.
Okay. We
We
did see
did.
Hustlers.
We did.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay,
that's my
right
number
on.
two. My number three, we are going all the way to 1999. It is as close to what I would consider a perfect film as possible. And when I call something a perfect film, I don't necessarily mean it's 5 stars. I just mean that what it seeks out to do, the way that it does it, it touches my sensibility in a way that very few films do, where it's not only amusing, it's not only emotional, it uses my kind of humor. It does all the things that I want a movie to do to take me on a journey, but also to be the kind of film that I can explore in a bunch of different ways. It is Kevin Smith's Dogma.
Dogma.
So,
Doug's perfect movie has a shit monster in it.
a shit demon. Yes, it does. But it's also the kind of film where um, it is so beloved in this household. I forget what had happened that either I'd said something and then Crystal was like, "Oh, and here it is," and I just stopped and went, "You don't think naked big titty women just fall out of the sky, you know?" And she just burst out laughing, lost it, because that's how we operate. I mean, we're just that sort of
Yeah.
silly. And this movie is fantastic. The performances are great. I at the time when Dogma was released, Kevin not only had a website as he does now, but there was an email set up. You could email him and he might email back. So I actually did. I probably talked about this on the show before. I used to have that email, but I'd asked him, being Jewish that I am and him being Catholic, that the whole idea of they had to go through these gates to be, or the doors of the church in order to be forgiven. In Judaism, we don't
Mm-hmm.
need that. Why are they beholden to it when
Mm-hmm.
they were around before Catholicism had come up?
Yeah.
And his answer, and again, it's been decades. Jesus Christ. It's my 20th college anniversary this year.
Oof.
Um, but so it's obviously been more than 20 years, but he was looking at it from a Catholic perspective. But he took the time to
Yeah.
reply and explain that. And I loved that, just being able to have that exchange with him. But you can go and watch Dogma as someone of faith and come away feeling more full than when you began. You can find questions to make you walk a little bit with your faith. Or if you are not of that faith, or atheist or agnostic, still have a good time. And
Yep.
so, and of course, for me, I think it also helps that you've got an incredible fucking cast. So I,
Mm-hmm.
of course, am laughing because taking my eldest to a doctor's appointment about 2, 3 weeks ago, I put in a CD from college, and it just so happened to have Candy Girl on it. And for those of us
Mm-hmm.
that have seen Dogma and we hear Candy Girl, we go to a scene where we meet Salma Hayek's character.
Selma
And
Hayek, yes, sir,
my son
indeedy.
was like, "Hey, could you play that again?" I was like, "Sure, I can live in that memory." Didn't say that out loud. Didn't say that
Absolutely.
out loud, but it will be fun if he gets
Absolutely.
older and he ends up enjoying Kevin Smith films and we show him Dogma, if he connects, "Oh, hey, it's that song that I like."
Yeah.
Yes. There you
Candy
go.
girl.
So
Boom, boom,
yeah,
boom.
I've never reviewed Dogma, so I don't know if I could give it a rating, but it is to me a perfect film. And it is one of those that if I see that it's on, I'm not going fucking anywhere. I mean, Daryl, I forget if you ever went into my office when you came over, but Crystal actually made for me a sign to have up where I could see it when I was grading. She got me a Buddy Christ. She printed one out
Yeah.
and got it framed. And underneath it, she took a line from Christopher Moorbook's Lamb. Blessed are the dumb fucks, for they can never be disappointed.
Truer words have never been
And right
spoken.
above those lines,
Yep, little buddy cross point.
whenever I'd feel down about grading, I could look up and go, "Blessed are the dumb fucks. They may never be disappointed."
There's times where, actually, maybe like 2 weeks ago, there was something on my friend's Facebook page, and somebody commented, and he responded, "It's the unwritten book of the road," and I was like, George Carlin action there for us. Right on, right on. Good call,
Well,
sir. Good call on
thank you, thank you,
Dogma.
thank you. I was looking some stuff up and I was like, well, shit. Technically, they're going from point A to point B, and you know, the two idiots were looking for Shermer, Illinois, and they make it all the way back to Red Bank.
The two idiots. It's a pretty good way to
Well,
describe
I
them.
mean, I should have more
Yeah.
appropriately called them prophets.
Oh, oh, yes, the prophets. The prophets. Um, Good call, sir. Good call. Good call. We you got anything before we land this bad boy, this plane? No challenges
No
this
challenges
episode.
this episode. You were having too much fun. Having too much fun watching Guardians of the Galaxy and Logan and being an old man in New
Yeah,
York. Uh, as
that's
you
one way of putting
should
it.
be.
Fun.
As you should be.
Yeah.
So yeah, next week we're
Also
coming back with
working
a
a
double
million
blind,
hours.
right?
We are coming back with a double blind next episode. Or we're doing a double blind challenge of Akira Kurosawa's
Mhm.
Rashomon. So that should be good stuff. I'm looking forward to checking that out and seeing what it's
Should
all
we
about.
have somebody else join us that's also never seen it so that we can get their perspective, your perspective, and my
Just
perspective?
that's not a bad idea. That's pretty ridiculous. That's yeah. We might we talk further into that. See if we can find someone whose opinion is just wildly vary from ours and have them go in on it. All right. Well, that's it, man, for this episode 85 of Paprika. We'll be back in 2 of the weeks, man. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy your Guardians if you are a Guardians watching person. If not, there's still plenty of other good things in theaters and on streaming. And if you do a little bit of hunting and digging on demand, there's always something
That's
for
right.
you.
That's right.
That's it. So until next time, you all take it easy and
Be
have a
well,
good one.
watch more movies.